Oh, there it goes.
Very nice. We call this meeting to order and ask that we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Say it together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You want to call, well, you want to wait for
Yes.
VR to get back? We'll call roll.
Want me to wait for him to come back? What you said?
Go ahead.
All right, roll call. Supervisor Rotundo,
Here.
Counselor Christmas.
Here.
Counselor Light,
Yeah.
Counselor Loomis.
Here.
Okay, welcome, everyone. Here comes VR. I want us to take a moment of silence. We lost 3 town residents since we were last here. Actually, on March 31st, Joseph Marr, who I understand used to be the codes officer here.
He was back in the 80s.
So he passed away on March 31st. Richard Kimber, who was 86 years old, also passed away. Was a longtime town resident, a milk carrier, and worked for Mapstone. So pretty embedded in the community. And then last but certainly not least is Eddie Cifuentes Hernandez, who was the victim of an unfortunate drowning. And also one of Counselor Loomis's farm workers. So if we could take a moment of silence for all those 3. Okay, thank you. First on our agenda, everybody has an agenda. There's some over there for the audience. And it's a little bit changed from the one that we most recently posted on the website because things always change at the last minute. Can't help it, but it's pretty similar. So if you've got the one from the website, you can pretty closely follow along. The first thing on our agenda would be continued proceedings in the Pivot Energy Tier 3 solar project on Sweet Road. So the first thing I would start with is just to update. Since last we were here in April, we scheduled an April 12th workshop for the town board with our town attorney and went through the local law on the overlay to make sure that we understood the process and what our responsibilities were, and very much appreciate everyone's participation. I think we got some questions answered and it was all for the good. And then on April 23rd, weather held and we were able to do the walk around at the site of the project with, I don't know how many participant or town residents. We had quite a number of people there, which was very good. There were lots of questions and Gordon Woodcock did a great job fielding them and providing answers. And so I think I supplied everybody on the board with the long form EAF, environmental assessment form, that you all have to look at. So I don't know what, if anything, we do with that. Tim, I did want to note that Ann found one misstatement in there regarding fire protection. And I did mention it to Gordon, that there is that error. It should be the Pompey Hill Fire Department as the fire protection for that site. But I don't know what we do with this, so I would appreciate guidance.
Absolutely. So we've been provided with part 1 of the full environmental assessment form, which is the responsibility of the applicant to fill out. They filled it out. We will review it to make sure that you believe it's accurate and whatever respects the applicant has provided information, but it really is their responsibility to fill this out. And answer a factual issue out. Tonight, I anticipate that for purposes of seeker, we can declare ourselves the lead agency. If the board is in any, if the board desires to do so, there will be no other agency involved in this, so we should be the lead agency on a project like this, assuming the board wants to move forward. If the board chooses to do that, we should probably declare ourselves the lead agency, and then at the next meeting before the public hearing, we would go through part 2 of the environmental assessment form, which is the board's responsibility. It's a little bit beefed up, the 11 questions that we normally go through under seeker. Because it's a long form environmental assessment. I think there's still 11 questions, maybe more, but there's several sub questions that we'd have to answer also. But that would not be something we would do tonight. That would be something we would do before the public hearing if the board decides it wants to move forward with the public hearing.
So this gets sent to county planning with our referral.
That's correct.
That's what we were waiting on. So I think we're ready. We're able to do that now.
Okay,
And you have it in your folder. I'm pretty sure this. And if you don't, I'll give you mine
okay.
or get you one, but I'm pretty sure I thought I put it in there. Okay, so we don't need to do anything with this tonight, other than, does the board have anything that they noted on the form that they questioned or the accuracy of? Only thing, is it definitely Fabius Pompey School District up there? I know it changes. No, okay, because you get up Sevier and then it goes from one side of the road or whatever, so. Anything else on here? And I see you've highlighted things. The ECC, our Environmental Conservation Commission, did ask for additional time to review and report back to the town board, so we need to make a motion, or we just
I'll make a motion to give them more
another
time.
30 days?
Second it.
Okay, and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried to extend the 30 days. Gordon, do you have anything you would like to present tonight?
Yeah, just really
Other than
quickly.
that long form that we got?
Right, and do you want me to correct the fire department?
That should be corrected, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I have things, one, I just wanted to hand out, it's our sustainability report, and it talks about our efforts as a company to create a more environmental workplace and promote diversity and inclusion, the environmental work that we do in addition to these projects, and some of the social changes that we try to implement, positive social changes. So I just wanted to hand these out, give you all a little more understanding or information on who Pivot Energy is as a company, because I know there've been some questions around who Pivot Energy is and what we do, and hopefully this
Thank
sheds a
you.
little more light on it.
Okay.
And then quickly, these are the next step in sort of the visual analysis that we've started on, where if you remember, we provided the viewshed impact study where you could see where is the project visible within a 1 mile radius around the project site. And so there were a few places that showed up, of course, right adjacent to the project. And then even in the viewshed analysis, it looked like, for example, you could see it from Palladino Farms. And so as the next step, we have 3 visual simulations from 2 locations. One is right there on Sweet Road next to the project, and the other is up there by Palladino Farm, so you could see, what does a project look like from a mile away. And so I can leave these back there, but generally what we have is the location that the photo was taken, in addition to some information up here about the coordinates. the direction of view. So in this case, the view shed's to the north from Sweet Road. And then what does the site look like right now with the array on it? Or what would it look like with the array on it? And then what would it look like with the screening that we propose? And this is the site, of course, without any screening. So we have one from Sweet Road looking north,
You can leave these right up here.
That'd be great.
one from Sweet Road looking south of the project area. And then that third one is up from Palladino Farms area. And in this case, there's not any visibility, but what we've done is kind of shown the project location and where it is relative to this viewpoint up here.
So that's their overflow parking lot at Heritage Hill?
Yeah, it is.
Taken from, that's what it
Yeah,
looked
Heritage
like.
Hill Brewery parking lot.
Okay. So that, I wondered what that orange line meant, because you sent those and I forwarded everything to the board so they could have it. So we have our own smaller version, but I didn't know what the orange line was.
Yeah, and it's because from the study, there probably hadn't been as much vegetation growth that used the tree heights from 2015, and I guess there's been enough growth that the precede, or in the years that passed, that you just can't see it. Yeah, I can leave these here, and this is, really a worst case modeling in the sense that we have arrays on all the acreage that we walked at the site visit, which we wouldn't do ultimately on the project, but just to give you, what would an array look like looking north? What would the array like looking south? We wouldn't need to use all those areas ultimately, but we wanted you to understand visually what does it look like with the array in these specific locations.
How long would those trees take to get to that other, like?
I think this is the 5 to 7 year, well, that one there, it's not really relevant, but this is the 5 to 7 year growth. So right in, 10 years, 15 years, it would be even taller.
If you want to just leave them up here so that, I know people on the Zoom probably won't be able to see them,
Well, yeah, they'll be able to see a little bit.
but if you want to spread them out,
Yeah, spread
Yeah.
it.
that way. And we'll add these to the website information that we already have
Okay.
as well. And the long form, once it's corrected, we can put that on there too.
Right, and assuming we get to a public hearing, I would include these in the public hearing so that people can see them a little better digitally or online.
Thanks, Gordon. Okay, so Tim did do a resolution that included a potential local law or overlay of this project, which we have to have in place in order to schedule a public hearing. So there has to be something to have a public hearing on. So there is a proposed local law in the resolution that's in your packet there. That was one of the things I didn't have over the weekend, but did submit to you guys today. However, we have to decide if we're going to move forward. So. Now would we make a motion on that, Tim?
Yeah, to set the date for public hearing pursuant to the resolution. Nikki, we just have to update the dates on this.
Okay.
Because it was done last month, so we'll just have to update the date of this meeting. It would be
Does
May
anyone,
2nd.
I'm sorry, Tim.
It's okay, May 2nd, not April.
Does any board member feel that we should not move forward to a public hearing and consider the overlay?
So in order, we're approving the overlay to have the public hearing, or we are
No,
just?
so
what is
so
exactly?
this is the local law that explains where the overlay district would be placed if the board chooses to approve the local law. You have to have, in order to even consider the local law, you have to have a public hearing. So you would hold the public hearing, listen to what people have to say, and then make a determination whether or not you want to go forward with approving the local law or not. So the purpose of this resolution is just to give the public an idea of what you will be considering during the public hearing.
So they know what to come and comment on.
So this basically just allows the public to vent all this, participate and all,
Yes.
and, you know, so we can get all their input from as many people that want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm for public input. I'm still not sure about the
That's-
project, but
yeah.
I'm definitely for public input. I mean,
Well, the choice right now would be, we choose not to move forward and the project is done. Or we choose to consider the overlay, which would require us to take the steps of holding a public hearing and having the public weigh in on what has been proposed as the overlay site. That's what the local law would define as the overlay area. So,
You ultimately have to amend the zoning map to allow the overlay to go on the zoning map. That's all right there. And that's what this local law. would do.
so if no one wants to be brave, I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing on the Pivot Energy Tier 3 solar project. I guess the question is though, do we do it on a board meeting night? Depending on what we think the turnout might be, or I am not a fan of having a marathon public hearing. So that's with when we passed the local law, we did it. And I mean, when we recognized that there was a lot of input from the public, we would extend the public hearing. So if we do it on a board night, I'm not going to have a marathon board meeting. It would be, we would just extend the public hearing to allow for as many people as wanted to weigh in.
now would it be here?
Well, that's the other, we'd have to determine location. And I guess I shouldn't have made the motion until we figure out the logistics, because they should be part of the motion. So,
Because you're gonna, yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. You're gonna, you know, I mean, which I think people should have the right to do. People should come and say, oh yeah, I like it for X, Y, Z. I dislike it for X, Y, Z.
yep.
And that's, you're gonna get a lot of that. And there's, I assume there would be quite a few people interested in putting their sense forward.
Well, if the turnout at the field was any indication,
You would have at least all of those people.
though that wasn't a public hearing, but there were certainly a lot of questions. So my concern would be if this room would have the capacity to hold a public hearing. And so then I thought maybe,
That doesn't weigh in on what date it is, does it? really?
no,
I mean,
no,
if you
no,
can
no,
get
no.
100
We can
people,
do
you
it
gotta
on the
get
night
100
of a board meeting. I just, my caution to you would be, I would want at some point to say this is enough for tonight. And we will continue the public hearing, for instance, at the next board meeting. Or we could try and do it on a separate night where we could maybe take more time. But
So the benefit of having it on the night of a board meeting is people
know.
know that we're meeting. And
Yep.
they set time aside. But the cost of it is that it may really extend the meeting time. Is that essentially what you're saying?
yeah, and I don't mind that obviously with the length of time some of our meetings go, you know that I'm willing to put in the time. I just think with a public hearing, at some point, it becomes necessary to have it be done for that particular board night. And then we can continue it
Yeah,
the next meeting.
that's.
Because that's what we did last year for those you two weren't here, but that's how we did it last year.
Night and allow for.
All right, so the next board meeting is June 6th. There was actually 5 Mondays in this month, but the 5th Monday is Memorial Day. And then the July meeting, that Monday,
That one we
July
already
4th,
moved it.
we moved it to July
6th.
6th. So,
But there is a 4th Monday in June if you wanted to schedule the original one on 6 and then follow up on the 27th. Or, I mean,
Well, why don't we cross that bridge when we see what the turnout is and the interest is on June 6th? We don't have to set a continuation date right now.
you could do it that night.
Because I do think it makes sense. People know the first Monday of the month is the board meeting.
Right, and then the people who are interested will be here, so if you want to set that date
Going
at a
forward.
different day, then they'll be here to hear that comment.
Okay. So second
Do we still do it here?
concern is where to do it. Now, I've heard tell, not while I was involved with the board, that there has been use of the highway garage to hold hearings before, and depending on the weather, we could set it up. I'm looking at you,
That's fine.
highway
That's
superintendent.
fine.
Okay, I'm not saying we'd have to, but I forget what the capacity in this room is. It's like 80 something people, which,
86.
yeah, which maybe would be plenty, but
We had about 50 at the walk around.
so, I mean, that wasn't a hearing.
Right.
That wasn't for, but, so anyway.
Well, if you can do it here, then maybe you start it here, and again, since everybody will be here, if we have to go over to the highway garage for safety reasons, then we can go over there.
So I'm going to continue my motion to hold a public hearing on the Pivot Energy Tier 3 project to be scheduled for the next town board meeting, which is Monday, June 6th, here at Town Hall at 6:35 PM. So does anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
So you passed this resolution.
And
You have a copy of that, Nikki?
I do.
Okay. I'll just change the dates and the first paragraph.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Chartrand,
Okay.
this is the
So
quickest we've gotten to you.
I know
in
this is pretty amazing.
several
I'm not going to count on this in June.
You might not want to come right off the bat.
So our supervisor statement, receipts and disbursements, it should be the last page on your main report. And I forgot to hit print double-sided, so it'll be the last page in that packet. So pretty good month for town clerk fees, 1,149. Our interest rates are starting to creep up on our night class.
Yeah,
We're just
I noticed that.
under, I think we're just under 1% now. So that's good news for us. Court fines are continuing to come in. They're picking up a little bit. As of this report, we're at 37% of our budget. And we had one developer deposit, and also our tax collector turned over the interest and penalties on the taxes. And it was $744 above what we estimated.
How much?
$744. I don't know whether that's penalties or interest, but either way, it's very good for us. The rest of the way down through, just the normal stuff going on, actually pretty quiet on the spending side as well. So as far as the main report goes, I'll give you the quick highlights. General fund spending is at about 27% of budget. That's without the SOX included. And our revenues are at 77%. Our current highway spending is at 15%, and our revenues are at 80%. So I think I just covered the first and last items there.
I'll make a motion, we accept the supervisor's report.
Bill seconded it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, I think all the bank reconciliations have floated around and ready to make that one.
I'll make a motion to accept the bank reconciliations for the supervisor, town clerk, and tax collector.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
And I think all the vouchers, did BR's last voucher go
Oh,
through?
yep.
You had a question on one of the vouchers, which is why,
That's why we audited them.
yes, it is. So BR went and got the information. So if you want to sign, I will make a motion to pay the bills, but wait till everybody signs to the second.
I'll second it.
Yeah. Thank you. Didn't want you to fill out that. Ian seconded it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
And we weren't sure whether we were gonna get the last item on my list. The audit of the supervisor's records for 2021 was completed prior to the meeting by 3 of our board members. So we need a motion that that audit's been.
I'll make a motion to approve the audit of the supervisor's records for 2021.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Thank you guys for doing that.
Thank you. And that covers me for the moment, unless there's any questions.
Thank you. Asked if the board has had a chance to review my meeting minute drafts. I'm looking for the board's acceptance of the April 6th regular meeting minutes, April 12th, and April 23rd special meeting minutes.
And Renee, I made the corrections on the
Yeah,
April 6th and forwarded it to you.
thanks.
Make a motion that we accept the town clerk's meeting minutes for April 6th, April 12th, and the special meeting on April 23rd.
I'll second it.
Seconded it. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. The Highway superintendent,
Yeah.
you are up. Do you have a new 284
Yes.
agreement for us to take a look at? Apparently there was a slight,
Change in the,
I can't believe Tom was off at even a penny on his estimate. But
Was I
he
off?
was,
I think I was off,
so-
what, $14?
yeah, for 14.
Yeah, so in order to make sure that we are compliant with our responsibility to authorize your work.
Yep.
Well, actually, this is a serious bonus to us because the chips almost doubled what we had available here. So the chips, and we didn't put the POP in the patch our potholes number yet. That did get released and it's about another 10 or 11,000 for town of Pompey.
Good.
So once all the specs are out for that, probably have to do another 284 agreement.
Add that on.
Yep.
So let the board look at that.
I just got word today that they're gonna be doing the preserve this week, finishing the paving project down there. Renee, you got a hold of the right people, correct?
I posted it on their Facebook page that they would be starting the work and to just be careful
Yeah.
of that, you know, when you're around, anybody was around the work zone,
Yeah.
because there's so many kids in that development.
Yeah,
And
tomorrow they're just cutting the driveways and then they'll
Okay.
pave probably Wednesday and Thursday.
And then I just told the homeowners association president as well, so. Some people have been complaining about it, so it's a good thing
Yep.
to get it done. We were hoping to get the drainage project done before that,
Nope,
just
that goes back down. Well, let me just-
wear and tear, but it's not a big deal. So I would make a motion that we
PR.
accept the revised 284 agreement for the highway garage. It reflects the numbers that they came from the state, right?
Yes,
As a
it was
result of the
state numbers that changed.
Yes, yeah.
I'll second it.
And seconded, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Very nice. I have a quote for a new fuel pump system here. $17,907.20. $987.25. Did you get that?
No, 17,000. Okay,
987,
thank you.
25.
Thank you.
In your folder. too.
That's true, sorry. That's true S and W Services, who holds the county contract that I have here with this file. And given what's happened to the pump here in the last month, it's about time to replace it. As you see the bills, we had to spend like almost $800 to reprogram all the keys because it wiped itself out.
You want to include the contract number for Onondaga County in this motion. It's 001-0478.
Oh, it's right here. The second page is proof that there is a county contract with S and W. So that, we don't have to, yes, you did. So we don't have to deal with prevailing wage. It's already been,
Quotes are needed now.
and we don't have to deal with, getting additional quotes. And it's less than the amount we set aside for this, purchase.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Now, there are a few things on there that may increase the cost.
of it, yeah, they were.
So we had budgeted 20,000 for this out of the ARPA, the COVID relief fund.
So I'll make a motion to authorize highway to purchase a diesel fuel
Well, this
pump.
is actually a general fund expenditure.
Oh, well, then I'm not gonna make a motion.
I'm just gonna authorize
Make
to make the improvements.
Pursuant to the proposal we received from S and W Services, they are a county contract. And the bid reference number is 0010478. The cost of for this is $17,987.25. And then seconded it. Any discussion? Bill, you good with it? Now you know how much we have set aside. James? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Nikki, you probably have a copy in there I can sign.
Yeah,
can
no,
sign
I
it.
do. I got it.
No, you want me to sign it right now?
Oh, yes.
And then we can. Keep that moving. There we go. I thought maybe you wanted to report on Earth Day because you got most of the
I have,
business.
I have the numbers, yeah.
Highway,
on our
really?
update.
Yeah.
Well, we took in 3,500 pounds of steel, which we took back already. They shredded 2.5 tons of paper. And we took in 486 tires.
Wow.
Compared to last year, we took in 97 tires.
97
What?
times.
The word got out
Happened.
apparently. We took several trips taking them to Okra today, so. Everything's cleaned up though,
We
it's
get
all
money
done.
back for the steel, but do we have to pay for the tires? Is it that type
I-
of deal or not?
Well, that was the question.
We don't pay, do we pay Okra for the tires when we, for Earth Day?
If we turn them under Earth Day, I believe that.
And they gave me a 1-week extension and they said that we wouldn't have to.
Oh, okay, good.
So how about the steel? Do we get
We took
compensated?
that, we dropped that at the
Yeah.
Telco, so.
He has the receipts, they'll send, the weight receipts, they'll send, no, I mean,
Yeah.
the amount, and then the,
Then they send
They
us that
really
breakdown.
check.
Yep.
Good net.
Yeah, yeah, not bad.
400,
only-
how many tires?
486 tires.
Some of them were Bill's,
I was gonna say.
some of them
Probably
were mine too, I have to
Guilty about
say.
whether you had to pay for them or not.
So James, you had a question last month about how many times we went out. Well, all year we went out 73 times. The first being 11, 16, 21. The last one was 419.
So far, the
What, for
So far.
Are we done now then?
I'm hoping, well, we still have plows on. And that was putting down 5,840 tons of salt and sand.
Cool.
Yes,
Thank you, BR.
you're welcome.
Can I take a picture of that?
Which one?
So, since I don't know where you put those digital speed readers, I thought you might wanna speak to that too.
Well, we put 2 up so far.
Oh, I thought you put all of them up.
No, we didn't. get 2 of
Oh,
them
that's
that
why,
day.
because I drove around, when I was coming
We
back
drove
from
around, couldn't
Manlius,
find any.
I'm like, I thought you put one up here and it's not here, and then I'd go a little further, it's like, I thought we're putting one here, it's not here.
You have to drive faster so they flash.
The one in Poppy Hill.
I was looking
Me
for
too.
it.
I was
Yeah.
shuffling kids and I hit one. I was like, oh, highway department, good job.
Isn't that to see who gets the high score? or-
Well,
Well,
they did have a limit, 101 miles an hour. And that would just test too many people. See how fast we can go. But right now, we put them on 91 on each end
for the Hamlet,
of Hamlet so far. So
and I've already gotten some very happy
have you? Oh,
texts,
good.
yeah, from people that they're there and that it's not gonna catch everybody because chronic speeders are gonna speed
Yes, they
anyway.
are.
But those of us who are distracted drivers, kids in the car or whatever,
Yep.
it does make you pay attention. And Ann was saying she came through and saw people putting their brake lights on, so that's the whole point.
Well, they help. They definitely.
It'll help
They
some.
help when you see them and just,
Yeah.
oh, wait, yep, it's a little.
See, you're not a chronic speeder.
Yeah, when you're driving a tractor.
Okay,
Oh,
we're,
that's the traffic roads.
we are on target to have the quickest board meeting I've probably ever run, so I don't want to slow us down.
I'm not gonna
Ted.
slow you down. I have reviewed all the contracts, the Casanova College swim contract. That requires us to pay them $60, I think, per person. It's identical to the one we did last year. I have no concerns with it. If the board is so inclined, we can move forward with approving that contract and authorizing the supervisor to sign it.
Make a motion, we approve the swim program contract.
I'll second it.
Can authorize me to sign it.
Authorize you to sign it.
Bill seconded it. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye, opposed. Motion carried.
The next one, I think, is the Lafayette intermunicipal agreement that allows the young people in Lafayette to use the program per person. I have reviewed it. It's exactly the same as last year, and I think we're in a position to move forward with it, if the board is so inclined.
I'll make a motion. We sign it.
Approve the intermunicipal agreement.
Approve it, the intermunicipal agreement between Town of Pompey and Town of Lafayette.
I'll second it.
Jane seconded it. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carried. I got a little-
One copy, I'll take it. to
I know, and I
Lafayette.
got a little carried away and signed it ahead of time thinking we'd already done this,
So we'll
but
ratify it. Let's just
So,
ratify
yeah,
it.
so, but I have a copy for you. Sorry.
The third contract before the board is the town infrastructure funding agreement with the county. The project grant funds are for the town hall water treatment, $6,500. Town hall water heater at $2,000, and the salt barn roof repairs at $16,500. Again, I've reviewed the contract with the county. I find it to be acceptable. There's nothing extraordinary about it. Anything there's nothing that jumps out at me as being problematic. So if the board is so inclined, it can approve that contract and authorize.
I'll make a motion that we approve the contract with Onondaga County Development for the water treatment of the town hall water heater and the salt repairs, and to authorize Renee to sign the contract.
Second it.
James seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed. Motion carried. That money will come in handy on the salt barn roof because the
will.
price went up. What else is new? And they won't hold to the price they quoted us. So that's what we're discovering is there are some, even though you agreed to something, the costs are such these days that.
Who's taking the lead on the
renegotiating.
water treatment?
Pardon me?
Who's taking the lead on getting the quotes for the water treatment? Okay.
And I talked to our town engineer, though. He thinks before we move forward on that, we should get the water analyzed. And I don't know if it's been done before recently,
Well,
but
it's the same water that we have in the highway garage, and I think they did an analysis.
They just
I
did
think
it all.
last week,
Oh, were they
wasn't he
there
down
last
there last week?
Yeah.
I thought
Well,
he had a-
it wasn't that-
Salt?
that's for the salt.
Yeah,
not
that's
for
with
the-
salt. No, this is for, we had one done before Tom had the system
Right.
put in last year. and
That's what
We're
I
on the
wondered.
well water from down
Okay.
there.
So
So
if
we shouldn't spend the money again to get another analysis if we have it
Yeah.
already.
that's what I didn't know. I didn't know if they'd been done.
I'm
So,
almost positive there was.
okay. And the water heater is included in our heat pump
Yep.
installation, which is on hold until we can get the parts. Because everything is both delayed and more expensive.
So do you have the file on that then? For the water?
Yeah.
treatment system down there?
Well, no, I just get the emails. Every
Oh.
time he comes, he gives me the heads up, like, oh, I'm gonna be.
Oh, that's a different-
That's a different, that's
Oh,
something
that's what I
different.
thought you
That's
guys
a-
were talking
Yeah.
about.
BR, you should find the file for when they or ask Tom maybe where,
When you put the
when,
softener in?
when they put the softener in your
So you guys
filters.
have a softener
It
down
was
there.
Amber
Okay.
Amber and.
Amber Well and Pump, I believe.
All right.
And take a word.
I'm pretty sure there was an analysis.
Outweigh.
I'll look in the file. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't-
Or reach out to Amber and ask them if they have a copy of VR.
What's that?
You could reach out to Amber and see if they have a copy of what, because it's the same water, it's gonna be the same.
Yep.
Okay. I just for the sake of, I do believe when you're listening on Zoom, side conversations distort the main conversation. So it's like if, I'm just reminding people, it makes it hard for, I think, people on Zoom or Facebook to hear. But I get it. We all have to talk. We can't be, it's not perfect. So let's move on to that road, paper road.
So I was contacted by, I think that actually the supervisor was contacted by a resident who lives on Palmer Road. Actually West Palmer Road, to be technical about it, or Palmer Road West. Who has requested that we discontinue or abandon a portion of a paper street. In other words, a street that was never built or constructed. Palmer Road West was actually constructed for a certain length, but the tax map shows it to be 465 foot longer than it actually is. And because it's on the map, the property really is, it looks like a road, but the property owner owns both sides of that paper street and would like us to abandon it because it was never constructed and eventually deed it over to him. This is not uncommon. Roads don't get constructed as they are shown on maps sometimes. And there's provision in the highway law, section 205, that allows us to do this and provide the property owner on either side, who is the same person in this case, with that road. So we've been asked to abandon that portion of the road, which was never constructed. It should not affect Palmer Road West at all. The portion of it that was constructed. I know BR has been out there and has looked at it, and I'm sure his comments will be helpful to us today. If you want to tell us what you found, because ultimately the superintendent of highway has to sign off on the certificate of abandonment. So
Well, you put the chart in here, right, Renee?
That's the what?
This diagram.
Yeah.
So basically, it obviously hasn't had any work done on it in years and years and years. So my only concern was where our drainage pipe comes. And it actually comes down and crosses just before the part where they want to abandon it. So it's not gonna affect anything that we are gonna have to do in the future, the current road now, so,
and the road that's been constructed
yes.
also services the property to the north, doesn't it? And or is it just service Mr. Robinson's property?
No, it services both sides.
It serves both properties. I think.
Yes.
If you see, there's, now that I'm looking at it closely, there's that little dotted rectangular area that runs from Palmer Hill Road across this, it's on the east, the right side of this diagram. Can you see where it ends? Isn't that where the road ends?
So the end of pavement is shown
Right
on,
here.
I have,
It's easier on him.
it's easier to look at here.
Oh, there we
Yes.
go.
Okay, so you can see
Right
right
there.
there where it says end of pavement.
Yes.
So, but does the property that is up here also access their lot from up here, from here?
Yeah, there's another driveway there.
Yes.
Yeah.
That goes up to the house
Yes.
to the north.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that won't be affected at all.
All right.
They'll still be able to
Yeah.
get to that house.
Yeah.
The only part that's gonna be abandoned is the part that was never constructed.
Yeah, and there's nothing on that at all. I mean,
So it's up to the board whether you want to think about this for a month, or if you're ready to go forward tonight, that's fine. By the resolution that I drafted, it really sets forth the findings that need to be made under section 205 of the highway law. to abandon the road and why are we abandoning it? Because it was never built. And it's of no use to the town at this point.
Will that will then combine his two properties? I mean,
Well, ultimately, we would deed, if the board so chooses, we're not doing this tonight, but we would do a deed for that portion of the street to the property owner on both sides, and then it would be up to him to merge
basically
all the
connect
land.
the
Yeah,
two,
you can
make it
Connect, it would be really three separate properties.
parcels.
Yeah, you
different.
can connect them all into one.
So board members, what are your thoughts? Do you want to absorb this because it's a new concept, or based on what Tim?
This has been going on for a long time, so if we wait another month.
It's been going on a long time. They were doing this.
I am too. I would be good moving forward today to resolve it, based on your representations, BR and Tim's.
Veronica, Mr. Robinson's not in anywhere, is he on? I don't see him up there. So he is out of the state. I talked to him yesterday. And he was going to try to potentially be on virtually if he could be, but he isn't. I told him I would make the presentation to the board instead. But this is something he's been trying to do for quite some time.
So can I just run through this then quickly?
Sure.
The resolution, the wherefore, the first paragraph on page 2. So we have determined that the road has not been opened or worked on by the town.
Mhm.
Within at least 6 years, it hasn't been traveled or used as a highway, correct?
It's pretty abandoned already.
Okay. And therefore, it's considered, as number 2 says, a paper street on the tax map. The property that's identified by the tax map number there, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then the town board would authorize the abandonment of approximately 465 feet of that road, which is the part that has not been used or worked on by the town for all this period of time. And that we have no public use for that abandoned section, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I think that, I just wanted to make sure we met all the elements.
Under the law, because it was never opened, it's considered an abandoned road, period.
Period.
But for title purposes, a certificate of abandonment is helpful and important for the property owner to have. And that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Like I said, under the law, because it was never constructed, never opened as a road, it is considered abandoned just by virtue of the fact that it hasn't been driven on or maintained for 7 years or 6 years? That's 7 years.
It says 6 years in that
6 years.
paragraph.
So it's 6 years. That's the statutory requirement. But this is important to do so that we can clear up title for the property.
So do you want to make a motion? Because you were,
So we're making a motion to approve the resolution.
That's correct.
Declare the road abandoned.
Yep.
and then do we have to direct anyone to,
We'll
Do this-
do a deed and a certificate. I'll prepare a deed and a certificate of abandonment for here to sign.
okay, so Bill made the motion and James seconded it. Any discussion? I should have waited till then. I could have asked. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carried, resolution.
Thank you very much on that.
We need a little lesson.
And then the last, it'll be a short lesson. The state legislature's passed the law that allows us to continue virtual meetings. And those virtual meetings will be different than what we used to be able to do. We used to be able to hold, somebody would be able to call in for meetings like we've done in the past. But they'd have to be in a place where it's open to the public and it had to be noticed and all those things. That will not be necessary in the future. The one thing that will be necessary in the future is that we're going to be holding a meeting and somebody has to call in. The call in has to be not only audio, but visual. So we have to be able to see that individual who is calling in, that board member who's not available. And we have to have at least a quorum of the total board in person, which is different than what we were able to do during COVID, which is everybody could call in and we could have our virtual meetings with everybody. Can't do that anymore. Still have to have 3 people here if somebody wanted to call in. We will set the reasons for which we would allow people to be absent from a meeting, but able to attend virtually. And this Association of Towns has drafted a local law for this. We have until we're still under the executive order for another 2 months.
Sometime in June.
Yeah, sometime in June, but if this board wants me to, I can draft a local law for the next meeting. And we can do it at any point in the future. The June date is there's 60 days from the date of the law that was passed by the legislature where we could still do virtual meetings under the executive order. Once that's passed, then we can't do that anymore, but we can always pass a local law to allow somebody to participate.
So if we don't have the local law in place, then we can't do virtual until we put the local law in place?
You can do it through June 15th plus another 30 days.
Oh, okay, okay.
But if this board is interested in having a law that allows you to attend virtually, tell me right now, and I will have a law drafted for the next meeting and we can
I think we're interested, right? We
Definitely.
need to make a motion to just.
No,
tell you to-
just-
Yeah.
direct me to.
I just, yeah, I think
Please.
the benefit is that the board members that might have to bow out because they can't be here personally for whatever reason
Right.
can still attend. So I think it's a win for us to keep our board a little bit.
Better participation.
Yeah,
If someone's
exactly.
sick, they're less
You're
likely
not
to.
coming here and giving us your germs.
Yep. Okay, I will have something prepared for the
Enjoying
next
the
meeting.
sun.
Well, that's to be determined if we can, if we're allowed to use that as a reason. to
Yeah,
not
we're gonna have to supersede
The state,
because there is a question between the lawyers as to whether or not you can have whether you can participate in a meeting if you're not in your town. Okay. So we would have to supersede the law that requires you to hold meeting. I don't agree. I think we're fine because we are holding the meeting, especially if we have a quorum here. We're holding the meeting in the town, as you're supposed to hold all town board meetings in the town. And if somebody participates out of the town, they're still participating in a meeting that's held in the town. That's my legal opinion.
I'm good with that.
That's all I have for tonight.
So you will prepare
I
something
will
for
have
us to
something
consider
prepared
next
for the
month.
next meeting.
Okay. Good. Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay,
Let's see
Ah.
that. Motion.
and we're not making a motion at this time, we're just
All right.
discussion.
So we moved for everything except for
Sorry, I just want to make sure. I
Yep.
get it right in the meeting minutes.
all the contracts were moved.
Yep.
Palmer Road West was moved and we're not doing anything on the local law because
Okay.
it's not available to us right now.
So old business on my, with the supervisor's report, is the codes office. Dave Tessier and I finished the interviews of the candidates that had expressed an interest and applied. We are very lucky that we both agreed on who we thought should be the codes officer and who we thought should be the deputy codes officer. We're also very lucky that both of them have already taken and passed and provided us with proof of their certification of the state codes courses, which was a prerequisite for the positions. but we weren't sure we were going to be able to get people that have been taking the codes courses already, because it seems to be a difficult thing for them to get done. So we made offers to, I checked references glowing for both candidates. Both are relatively young, relatively new to codes, but so I want to propose, let's start with the codes officer. Tim Bearup, B-E-A-R-U-P, would be the candidate that I would recommend to the board. Has 3 towns in Cortland County that he presently covers. Very small towns that don't combine the amount of work that he would have here in Pompey. He is available during the day, during the week, so that's a bonus for us. He has a background in construction. Trying to think what else I need to tell you. You guys make sure you can feel free to ask me questions. He's taken all of the codes and fire courses. He's done the state auditing work, which is crucial, the annual work. So he comes highly recommended by the references that I checked.
Where's he from?
He grew up in Truxton, but I think he lives, don't quote me on this. Oh, wait, oh no. I think he lives in the next town over. It might be Scott, I think.
Scott's at the south end of Skinny Atlas Lake.
Well, then it's not the next town
That's quite a ways away.
over. Then I don't think it's Scott, because he's only a half an hour from here.
Palmer, maybe?
Maybe Chuck, no, I don't,
Just
honestly,
west of Truxton, is that?
maybe Kyler.
Tyler's down there.
It might be Kyler. I'm honestly. I'm sorry. That's the one question I can't answer.
It's a reasonable distance from, you said it's a half an hour.
Yeah,
And he's qualified.
he's qualified. He just became a codes officer in his first town 16 months ago. And then he got his second town in October and just got the third town, which is Cincinnatus, in January. So, but he has very limited office hours in all 3 towns, 2 hours a week, and is not reportedly busy. So he was, as among all of the candidates, the one that would be most able to do all of the, most available, let's put it that way, which I think is crucial with codes. You got to be available to do the inspections and issue the permits and answer the phone and things like that. So I think he would be the best fit of the people, and he comes recommended not just by me, but by Dave Tessier as well, who used to be a codes officer and has done everything imaginable with land use planning. So I would make a motion to appoint Tim Bearup to the position of code enforcement officer in the town, not for a total of no more than 19 hours a week at $35 an hour. Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. So the deputy code enforcement position. I would like to propose Tyler Johnson for that position. He currently works full-time for the town of Onondaga. But if you recall, the deputy codes position, we have focused on fire inspections, and to do sort of the legwork, visits for code compliance complaints. So his hours, he can be here after he's done work during the week, which is 4 PM in Onondaga. He lives in Lynn Court, in the city, but he is also available on Saturdays. So considering the work that that position is intending to take on, it made, and he has the certification for the state courses. He has a huge background with fire departments and EMT work. So he, like, in terms of doing fire inspections, he's already ahead of the game as far as, he's already done, but believe it or not, over in Onondaga, an unsafe house. Procedure to the point where apparently they're going to court on it. So I was like, really? But this is his, I can share his resume with you. That actually, he shortened it because he took some of his experience with EMT work out. But he also had glowing reviews from his references.
So did he apply for the primary codes officer thing? But
He
we weren't
applied,
recommending him for deputy, or did he actually apply for deputy?
he applied, let me see what his original. Let me just see. Well, he's a deputy codes officer, actually, over, it's not, but he's full-time. But he wasn't applying for a specific, no, he did apply for the specific position of code enforcement officer. But when we considered the candidates and made the offer to him, it was with the understanding of the limitations he was going to have on time to be able to be available to do.
Do you think he would accept an offer?
He already did. I wouldn't come to you if I hadn't already checked out references and made offers to them to let them know that it would have to be board approved. Because I didn't want to then go back and tell them and then they turned it down.
Yep.
So that position would, and in working with Tom on these numbers, it doesn't seem like we're gonna go over budget this year at all. But we would pay him $25 an hour for no more than 15 hours a week.
That's good.
So that, hopefully, the combination of the two positions will allow us to do some of the work that's been difficult to get to. The primary one being the fire inspections, but also all of these inventories that we need to be doing that have really not been done, like the telecommunications towers. And I was just talking to one of the ECC board members at Earth Day, and they said, well, who's monitoring whether the SWIP plans are being followed? And I said, probably no one at the moment, and that should be added to the list of things that codes should probably look at, except that I think it's going to be very difficult to, I don't know how we ensure that where this, I don't think we have a list of SWIP plans. I could be wrong, Ann, but I don't think we have one. So, but that's another. And then if we do have solar projects in the town, and with I have a file already of codes complaints I've gotten. So I'll be sharing that with the two as well. So we will figure out what works best for them as far as hours. We want to have the codes office open for a certain period of time. So we're going to talk with them about a clerk's position that would allow people to come in during business hours, a couple of days a week, to drop off or get permits or drop off paperwork or maps or make applications. So we're hoping to improve the services with this combination, and I've told both candidates that this is a work in progress. So if we need to tweak it, we will be tweaking it. So with that said, any questions? I would make a motion for the board to appoint Tyler Johnson to the position of Deputy Code Enforcement Officer to work no more than 15 hours a week at a rate of $25 an hour.
Second.
Second it, any, all good? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. And thank you, Dave Tessier. Really, even on vacation, he was very generous with his time and it was very much appreciated to try and make sure we were doing a good process to pick these candidates. The direct deposit agreement did not come in, so from the bank, so that is off. I left it on hoping we would get it today, but I didn't. And the only other thing I have is that I want to make the public aware that one of our ECC board members, Martha Viglietta, is spearheading a community campaign to encourage people to consider heat pumps as a source of heating energy for homes. So this month, on Thursday, May 12th, here at the town hall at 6:30, there will be a kickoff of the campaign, so to speak, with somebody from Heat Smart here to discuss the campaign and what it involves, and also to talk about heat pumps and the benefit to homes and sustainability. So I just want to mention that you will start to see flyers going around advertising this. And other than that, anybody have anything that?
Did you want to get permission to move ahead with the direct deposit when it comes? Because I can call her tomorrow. It may be here tomorrow.
I could, I mean, can we do that? And then it's subject to Tim's review?
Yeah.
Does somebody want to make a motion to?
I'll make a motion that we approve the direct deposits upon Tim's review
And authorize me to sign an agreement?
and authorize you to sign the agreement.
Second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carried. So, public comment.
My name is Zarita Hack and I live at 7482 Kratz Falls Road. And I kind of want to jump the gun on the public hearing about the solar project because I know there's been a lot of negative things being said and I wanted to say something positive. I'm in favor of this proposed solar project and I hope the board will approve it. My reasons are that it's relatively, compared to some other projects I've seen go in the town. In my time here, it's relatively simple. It does have visual impacts on some neighbors. But I understand that the company who's doing the installation is making every effort to mitigate any impacts, and I appreciate that. Once the project is installed, there will be no noise, no heavy truck traffic, daily traffic, which impacts me from other businesses that have been approved since I've lived here. So there won't be wear and tear on the roads from all those heavy trucks. I don't believe there's any lighting impacts from the project either. No noise. And the good things, it'll have good impacts on the soil because they're planting. Part of the project is that crop they're going to plant to improve and retain the soil there, which is important. And also, of course, the energy, the solar energy, that'll be a community benefit. And I also appreciate the fact that this is the way, as I understand it, the way this project is planned, it has a definite lifespan, 25 years, and it's over, and I believe it's removed. So we don't have to worry about lasting impacts on the property once it's done. So I think that's a good thing too. And I just think that one of our neighbors wants to use his land in a way that's going to benefit the community, and I appreciate that, and I hope we can support that. So thank you.
Thank you. I know there's a sign in over there. I don't know if anybody did sign in, but did you stand?
I do.
So, oh, that's good.
Bill was on
Oh,
But-
he's no longer here.
here anymore, and then Stan.
Sorry, I didn't make the first part of the meeting, I'm coaching the Fabius Pompey golf team, so I really can't speak intelligently on what was done earlier this evening. Goes back to the telecommunications that I brought up last week. Is there any thought to revisiting that law itself and maybe eliminating that part 3 of, I guess it would be the review authority, so that if there are any modifications made up there, it has to go through some sort of review and surrounding neighbors are notified.
Are you, Stan, just so I'm clear, are you talking about anything that's done up there? That's what you want?
Well, I think if it's.
I know the provision you're talking about.
And once you, Tim made a very good point last meeting, if you just eliminated that portion, I don't know, I had it up in my phone.
I have it. Here, back here.
Eliminated that portion, it would kind of serve the purpose of if there's modifications made. Telecommunications antennas based on towers, they do not require site approval. So it's more for the telecommunication stuff. I mean, all the other stuff, yeah, if there's a new tower going up, then everybody has to be notified, but this kind of lends to where Verizon has taken their tower from 1 candelabra to now 3, under routine maintenance. And if there was anything in there that it just had to go through some sort of review plan, whether it be this board or the planning board.
I definitely think it's worthy of consideration, and you and I have talked about it since the board meeting, and I have some information I could share. I mean, I went up there with Carl Fahrenkrug from the planning board, our planning board committee, who has some expertise in this, and we looked at the towers. And let me just tell you, it was not a warm day and it was wind. So you know what it's, you live up there, so. I couldn't keep him there long, but I definitely think to bring him into a discussion with Tim about the law and then anything to present to the board is a good idea, because I'm realizing from talking to him that there are some constraints on what towns are allowed to require telecommunications companies to do. And I'm not really clear on what those restraints are, other than I know that in the day when Verizon wanted the tower on Indian Hill Road, and the town, I do believe, initially turned it down. I went to court over the height. It went to court and it was determined that the height was something that the town, that it was, and don't quote me on this because I'm not exactly sure, I wasn't here at the time, but they determined that the town couldn't limit the height. And that was very interesting to me. I'd never heard that, so it came back to the planning board for continued action. So I think we have to be clear on what we can and cannot do. And that's information I got since the last board meeting and since I talked to you, but I do think it's worthy of review. And what are we allowed to do? What can we do?
I think the town does have a certain amount of muscle in what they can do. And I mean, when it comes to view shed, different things like that. All that aside, I think, and I thank you for taking a ride up there, because I also think what you were talking about is a lot of these towers, there's some stuff up there that the town may benefit in terms of assessment and things like that. I mean, you can speak more intelligently on that.
Well, again, I'll share. I know that I'm always told public comment is for comment, but I don't mind sharing what I worked on. After I went up to the towers with Carl, I called Brian Fitz. And I had given him a file with all of the properties that are assessed, have towers on them. And there's several properties. It's not just Nexstar. There are many properties, but this is on his radar, but until he gets through Board of Assessment review and the tax assessment grievance process, it's nothing he's going to take on until after that. It can't be changed until next year's tax roll anyway. So, but he knows that I want these towers looked at. What he told me was that if he asks companies that have property in the town from which they're profiting, they are required to turn over their financials if he requests them. And Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, if I say anything wrong, this is what Brian was telling me, or at least what I think, and that that is in large part how they determine what the value of the property is to the owner. If they don't do that, then Brian's thought is to assess them until we get their attention. And if we're not, if we assess them and they don't seem to blink, then maybe the next year we assess them more. Until that is one way we possibly can get their attention. Because as you know, getting their attention is one of the hardest things. So there's more than one way to, I don't like the phrase skin a cat because I'm an animal lover. So, but there's more than one way to deal with this.
And this is, if I understand the towers have to be there, and, you know, I mean, if T-Mobile has the right to put out, why doesn't the town benefit from that?
And what I found out from Carl was they can have a lot of devices up there that they don't turn on until it's profitable for them. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was again news to me that if something's up there, you think it's operational, the layperson does, let's say you and me. But as it turns out, it doesn't necessarily mean it's being used at the moment, but they're waiting for when something comes online. So, and I still see T-Mobile hasn't got their antennas up yet.
Well, their permit runs to July, so.
How do you implement that? Like if a developer builds a house on a lot, but hasn't sold it to someone, how do we assess it?
You have to ask Brian.
Well, there's
Right,
three
it's
ways,
not
there's
fairly-
3 ways to assess property. There's the replacement cost or the market value. I'm sorry, not market value, that's the third way. There's the replacement cost or the cost of the structure. There's the market value, which is how much a property is selling for. And then there's the income. The income.
How income's being generated. then.
Right, how much ink, so when you assess a business, a property that runs a business, it'll do it by the income of that. That's where Brian is saying. For a tower, how do you assess the value of a tower? You can't, so there's no value to a tower except for the income it generates. That's how you would, that's why he would ask for that kind of information in terms of how much income the antennas are making, or the tower owners making off those antennas in order to determine what the actual value of that tower is. So a house is going to be assessed differently than a tower. The house, you can look at other houses that are similar to that, even if nobody's living in it, and determine what the market value is. And that's how they usually assess houses, is through market value.
I mean, to that point, is that how the town will benefit from the solar overlay district that is possibly proposed? The same way that the tower would be assessed. How does the assessment work on the tower? I mean, the solar overlay.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be income based to a certain degree, but don't forget the property owner is leasing that property to the cell tower or to the solar farm company. So it's, the assessment is going to be reflected usually in the lease.
The pilot agreement.
And through a pilot.
So, but
That's, I mean, again, my understanding has changed because we don't benefit from the energy coming out of there, not directly, because that can be shared and we can get energy from all over the place. And if this has already been covered, I apologize.
No,
No.
it's fine.
It's where we're going to benefit is through the agreement with Pilot Energy and what we're going to get out of that. And that's where the town is going to benefit, not necessarily from the energy coming out of it.
Right.
Okay. Do we,
Got it.
so let me get something straight, though. We know about the pilot agreement.
Right.
We can come up with a mathematical
Yep.
equation, get an estimate of what we're gonna get. But there also could be an increase in the assessed value of the property with these solar panels on them or not. I'm assuming everything, the sole benefit to the community is what we come up with.
Don't forget, assessment isn't necessarily taxation. People always relate assessment to increased taxation. That's not correlative all the time. Assessment is simply how much is that, what's the value of that property in order to determine what the taxes on that property.
Right, right.
So could a property that now has solar on it be assessed for more? Potentially. But what's going to drive the taxation on that, and it's not taxation because it's the payment in lieu of
It's the budget.
taxation, is the pilot. And that's going to be a set number over the course of 25 years.
Yes, I understand. Yeah.
Now, just to throw it, just because we're talking about this. If a solar developer purchased land instead of leased it,
Mhm.
then the same thing, similar to what we're doing with the telecommunications would occur, which is we would be looking at what the profit is to that.
Yeah.
Right? So it'd be different than what leasing.
Yeah, I am not an expert in the area of assessment, but that makes common sense to me that if a solar farm was or if a solar company was purchasing a property and they were going to use it solely for generation of power, then you take an income approach to that property as opposed to a market approach to that property.
well, the current assessment of solar property is ag.
Yeah, and that's gonna,
Yeah, that was my assumption.
remains the
is that He
same.
was maintaining his ag exemption.
Yes.
That was going to be what the assessment
Yes.
remains at, despite the fact that they're putting up solar panels. And therefore, the primary community benefit is the pilot income.
Aside from the more global benefit of renewable energy and state policy and the encouragement of renewable energy and all of those things, some towns will consider that as a very important component of their role in encouraging
Right.
renewable energy and reduction of fossil fuels, for instance. So some towns will actually put that in there,
And come up with a valuation for it, or just say. we're
or
doing
just
it.
say, we're playing our part
Yeah.
in that.
But we would, in that particular case, we wouldn't be able to isolate somewhere else where some other type of generation is coming offline. I mean, that's a question for pivot, right? But in terms of feeling, well, in terms of looking this as a community benefit,
Mhm.
the presumption would be we're gaining renewable by taking some sort of fossil fuel offline.
Right.
But they can't really, that would be impossible for them to demonstrate.
The economies of scale are so large,
Right,
you could
yes,
never,
yeah.
it's more a feel than it is a science.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
and you're welcome. Anything online?
There's one comment here from Greg Curley. Does the zoning board have to weigh in on a land use change for the solar project? If you have already addressed this, I apologize if I missed your statement on the topic. Thank you.
Zoning Board of Appeals under our code does not require, it requires the recommendation of the planning board and of the ECC, not the zoning board of appeals.
That's all I have.
Okay. Well, we're still pretty early, but Not as early as I thought.
Don't blame me.
I'm not blaming anybody. It is what it is. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, everybody. for
Please give me
coming.
back the